Hello everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I want to talk about Swim Freely. This is a deck that's, well, it hasn't been the best so far, but I think it now finally has the piece it needs to actually be good. And when I say good, I mean really, really good. And you'll see in just a moment why I think that. Um, and yeah, this isn't just like clickbait. I think this deck has serious potential. I don't know if it'll be good, specifically with a lot of spread. Spread is not good for this deck, but if there wasn't a lot of spread, if it was just like right now the current meta is just a lot of Charizard, this deck should be able to beat Charizard. Theoretically, the deck should already be able to beat Charizard, but it lacks consistency. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. Because what is the deck? And first of all, we're going to look at two Japanese lists that I think are like fine, but not insane. They're pretty traditional. The first card we need to talk about, of course, is going to be Finneon. Finneon, its ability, Oceanic Accompaniment. That's a lot of syllables. But as often as you like, during your turn, you may attach a water energy, a basic water energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon that has this Swim Freely attack. One thing to note, all the Pokemon with Swim Freely, I believe, are stage 1s. There aren't any basics, I know. Um, so that means that you can't use it with, like some people have talked about it with Raging Bolt EX or Chimpow EX. And, well, you can. I've actually seen that, but it's not very good. So you can use it, though, to power up the Swim Freely attackers. The Swim Freely attackers are, there's a few of them. The second best, which is played here, arguably the best, but it's probably not the best, is this Dugong. This one for the attack, I think it always does 10. I don't know, it doesn't do a lot. And for one water, you flip a coin. If heads, you're immune from damage and effects of attacks. It's the same as agility if you're familiar with that attack, especially if you play themed. But it only does 10. It's not a very good attack, but all that matters is that it has the attack so Finian can copy. Then you have Flow Return on Dugong here. It's two colors, but a 40 times multiplier. Shuffle any amount of water energy from your Pokemon into your deck. This does 40 for each card you shuffled in this way. So this can hit potentially infinite damage, but in order to one-shot a Charizard, that's like a lot of energy. It's 9 energy. So we do have Seeking, which is the other one. It's actually newer. It came out in 151 versus the rest of the cards came out in Lost Origin. So Seeking though, it has a little less HP, but it's it does swim freely, right? And then it has Aquahorn 60-30 more fruit energy attached to this Pokemon. So you might actually, do you need to discard, you need 9 energy as well. So it is the same amount of energy, but it does have a higher base damage. So against a lot of Pokemon, especially those lower HP ones, you do need less energy. So it's generally a little better than Dugong. They're pretty close though. Um, but we're going to talk about Seeking mostly in this video. It is, as you'll see in just a moment, why that matters. But you do have Dugong, a list like this. Irida. I'm not going to talk too much about the trainers, except for like there's one new one, and then there's also a card that hasn't really been played in Swim Freely that I think has some opportunity to be really interesting, really powerful, but kind of situational. But right now the list, it runs three barrel, so that's like your engine, and then you have an evolution attacker, and then you need another basic on your bench to power it up. But like a basic and then a stage 1 isn't that hard to get up. Then you need engines, and Barbarella is like a good engine, but it doesn't get you exactly what you want all the time. So yeah, and then you could run Pidgeot to get whatever you want, but that's a stage 2, right? So that's also not getting you exactly what you want. I mean, it is if you get a Pidgeot, but also you can only have one Pidgeot because you can't use more than one Pidgeot EX ability per turn. So, yeah. But luckily we have a solution to that, which we'll get to in just a moment. But yeah, you can use Irida, that's going to be good. You can use Arazu, that'll probably also be good. I don't know. I don't know what ace spec you'll run. There's Prime Catcher, there's two new ace specs that are really, or there's three that are really good. There's Secret Box, which I think is underrated by some people and overrated by other people, but it's pretty good. There's Unfair Stamp, which is really good and really like annoying to have to deal with. Good with Irida, but arguably not needed. Same thing with Prime Catcher. As we'll talk about with the deck, you do have a lot of search, so you could use Prime Catcher or you could just search out boss's orders. And same thing with like Unfair Stamp, you could Unfair Stamp or search out some supporter. But and then with the Secret Box, that's like a setup, a spec item, which is really good if you don't get set up. But again, you might not need it. And then there's Legacy Energy, that's a special energy, gives up one less prize. It's really good, but it does not help you with any of the setup slash consistency stuff. So, if you're really good, if the deck's really consistent, then you could put Legacy Energy in. And I think it'll be pretty consistent, but I don't know if it'll be quite consistent enough. But anyways, you have a lot of things. You have Letter of Encouragement and Earth and Vessel to search out energy. You have Lady to search out energy because Finion, it's just like Max Caliber, but it's a basic, so you just need all of that energy. You need superior energy retrieval as well if you're running the Seeking. With Dugong, you don't necessarily need the superior energy retrieval because the energy is hopefully all going back into your deck. But Dugong's, it's not going to be an option for this deck, as we'll see. So here's another list. This one runs Seeking. And again, this one I believe did better. These were both played in Japanese City League tournaments, which are 64 people. They all finished in the top 16, which is pretty good. You could technically get lucky and slide into the back section of that, but I believe this deck came in like sixth or something, which is pretty solid. And you can run Rainy Greninja to attack. Potentially, you can like move energies around. It's pretty awkward, but it technically is an option, but you can accelerate to it. So keep in mind the only thing you can accelerate to are the swim freely Pokemon, not the pre-evolutions, not other Pokemon, not Barrel. So Barrel could get trapped. We're not going to be running Barrel, but if you were, it could get trapped. But as I said, Barrel's not a perfect engine. If you've played it, you know it's not the perfect engine. It's nice, but it has some issues. So Finian I actually have pulled up. As I said, it's weak to spread. Finion 50 HP is low. There's Dragapult EX coming out in the next set, which looks really good. Which can't really be blocked. It can be blocked by Relor, which you could put into Stage 1 Grass Pokemon. Yeah, you could run it to stop. It just stops bench damage and effects of attacks done to your bench Pokemon. So this will stop Dragapult EX's attack. It'll even stop I don't know if they're like it's an attack that discards energy from your bench or something, it would stop that. I don't really know what else it stops other than bench snipes, but theoretically it stops more stuff. I'll pull up the Relar for you to look at. It also has low H. No, Rabsca. I always get them confused. But yeah, Rabsca from Temporal Forces with Spherical Shield. It does have low HP though, so if they are spreading through, say, abilities, there's some really cool abilities that spread in the next set, then that won't be good for you. But you know, I don't know. Don't worry about the spread thing. If that's the biggest aspect holding it back, then it's still a pretty good deck, right? I mean, even Charizard isn't, it's not that good against spread. Specifically Dragapult EX, which I've talked about some, and yeah, it's really good, right? So anyway, though, let's talk about the Seeking, I guess. So it has Swim Freely, which is the most important thing, and then it does good damage. It's just really good. It evolves from Goldeen, right? So you know, this has been pretty solid so far. Decent damage multiplier, as it's a single parser. If you're a single parser, taking one shots every turn, you should win the game. Again, except against spread, but you know, let's not worry too much about that. Because like Charizard, you should be able to beat Charizard. You should be able to beat Chien-Pao, Lugia. And we get like all the top decks outside of maybe Lost Zone, which you could still beat potentially, depending how like well they set up things like that. But then we should talk about Goldeen. And Goldeen is a card coming in the next set, Twilight Masquerade, which is it's pretty interesting here. It has an ability Festival Fever or something. The abilities might be translated, the names might be translated incorrectly, but the effects should always be correct. It has an ability, the name matters, what it does doesn't. It lets you like attack twice if you have a stadium, but we're not going to play the stadium in this stack. And I don't have a 60 yet. I will have a 60 when the set comes out. I'm probably going to play this on my channel because it looks super cool. But yeah, so it has an ability that it doesn't really matter what it does, but it matters that it has it, which is kind of weird, but just trust me. And some of you may know where this is going, but this evolves into Seeking, right? So that's really important. You have Seeking with Swim Freely, which doesn't matter what Swim Freely does, but it matters that it has it. You have Goldeen with Festival Fever. It doesn't matter what it does, but it matters that it has it. You know, this is kind of a weird deck with these Pokemon that have these attacks and abilities that just are bad, but due to the fact that they have them, it matters because we have Thwacky from the next set as well. By the way, this is Massive Change in Japan, which is going to make up the second half or the half of Twilight Masquerade. But Thwacky here, stage 1 does have to retreat 100 HP, so you know it has some of the same downsides as the Barrel, arguably even more. There's Greninja EX, again, a spread deck, but you could run Rabsca, you could run Manaphy to stop that. Anyway, so you have this ability Boom Boom Drum. It says once during your turn, you can search your deck for any card and put it into your hand if your active Pokemon has the Festival Fever ability, the one on Goldeen. And Goldeen, as the pre-evolution to your main attacker, should probably be in the active. In your single prize deck, so most of the time you'll be knocked out, you'll just send up another Goldeen, and you'll go in with Thwacky to search for a lot of cards, right? You can get at least two Thwackies. That's not crazy. That's fair. You could get three. That's very possible. It depends how heavy you go in the line. But two, searching out any two cards every single turn. Pidgeot EX is insane, and it searches out one card every turn. And this is stage two. Thwackey searches out one card every turn, but it's a stage one and can stack. This is really, really good. I think so. I've been looking at tournament results, and Thwackey has seen some play, but only within the the deck that actually attack that like uses the Festival Fever ability to attack. But I think the option here with the Goldeen, there's also a Swirlix if you want to know so the three Pokemon with the ability, the Festival Fever ability are Swirlix, Goldeen, and Diplin. Diplin doesn't evolve into anything yet. It will in the future. But then the other two do, but there's not a very good Slurpuff. Wait, there is this no yeah there's what sort of Slurpuff is this? I don't know. There's like some, but they're not that good. So Thwackey is or this Slurpuffs are pretty bad. So Thwackey here it's pretty interesting though. I think this is a really cool card. I think it's really underrated, but it's gonna be good in it's gonna be very good in the like Diplin Thwackey deck. But with Goldeen, you now have the option to have an insane draw engine. Like the draw slash search engine. This engine is, as I said, it's better than Pidgeot. Potentially you don't have Goldeen, but it's literally just a basic Pokemon you need in the active. Sure, you need to switch like at the beginning of the game, but once you're rolling, and you do have what I think is like definitely the best engine in the game, which is pretty insane. And as I said, like the engine of the deck was kind of sketchy. It was just the barrels, which were pretty good, but not insane. And you could miss the things, and you couldn't play tech. So I want to talk about one tech specifically that's really interesting, and that's Salvatore. Search your deck for a card for that. Sorry, search your deck for a card that has no abilities and evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. Then you shuffle, and you can do this the turn that Pokemon was put into play. And so the evolution needs to have no abilities, but the basic can have abilities. So we'll get the Goldeen, and we can just play down Goldeen. Technically, turn one, Salvatore into Seeking, which doesn't have an ability and can hit. And then the Finneon is a basic, which accelerates a bunch of energy. So can technically Seeking turn one. Is it good? Probably not, but it is an option. But more importantly, late game, once you're going, if your opponent knocks out your only Goldeen, you can go Salvatore. Of course, this is a little sketchy if you only have one Goldeen, because then you don't have the Goldeen on your bench to send up to use the ability. But if you do have a pivot, say you have Rabska, is that the right Pokemon? It is. And so you have that, and you have a something to give it free retreat, I guess a rescue board. Then you could send that up, retreat into Goldeen, sorry, grab Goldeen from your deck, retreat into it. Then you can use your Thwackies to get the Salvatore, and that's not that crazy. It's a little weird, but Salvatore is a backup option in case things go awry. Again, your engine will shut off in the meantime, which is like really sketchy. Notably, if your opponent like Ionas you and knocks out your only attacker, that would be bad. Potentially, it's not necessarily the end of the world. It is a little scarier there. So Salvatore isn't necessarily a great option, but it is an option. It is a card that has potentially insane upside, or it does have insane upside. Will it be good enough? Is it actually worth playing? I don't know, but I figure it's a card that I haven't really seen talked about much, honestly in general, but especially in Swim Freely, which hasn't been talked about much either. I looked online probably for like a good half an hour, maybe not half an hour, but at least 15 minutes, potentially a half an hour at Swim Freely decks online to see if there's any talk about Swim Freely with Thwackey, and I couldn't find it. I would not be shocked if it's out there somewhere. And tell me down below if you've thought of this combo, and also tell me down below if you think this combo is good. Because as I said, except against Spread, which is gonna look pretty solid next expansion, I don't know exactly how good. Because right now Spread's bad. It's not completely terrible or unplayed at all. There's Radiant Greninja, there's Lost Zone, but it's not played a ton, and it's quite frankly not something when I've been playing games, I haven't really worried about it too much. But yeah, again, except against Spread, this deck is like really good. This is good against Charizard, right? It's like actually good against Charizard because it does have that consistency you need to actually take one shots. Again, it's a lot of energy. It's like 9 energy, but now you do have hopefully all the things you need to do to actually, you have the insane engine to take these big knockouts. You do Lady because you can play supporters that have certain versatility outside of just Iono research or whatever. Um, Yeah, but and then the last card I do want to talk about is Lan's Assistance. This is a new card again from Mask of Change. It looks like. Oh no, it's from the other set, the Japanese set. Oh, Crimson Haze. There we go. And so it's a supporter. Put up to three in any combination of Pokemon and without rule boxes and basic energy from your discard into your hand. It's kind of like Clara or Rod, I guess Super Rod, but it's not like insane. It's actually not that good of a card, but in this deck it'll be pretty good because it's like superior energy retrieval, but it also gets back Pokemon, so it's gonna have a lot of use cases. I think it's a pretty solid card. It's not an insane card. You look at like Nessa, which was a card, and it's worse than that. You look at Clara, it's worse than that a lot of the time. But there are going to be times when this is really good, and it's in the format, or it will be in the format. So I think it'll be a pretty good addition to this stack. Potentially Lost Zone, but I think mostly this stack. But anyways, I just really wanted to talk about this deck. I think it's going to be insane. So I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, like, comment down below, all the good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video. And upcoming, I'm going to be talking about a ton of new decks from this set. I've talked about a few, but I'm going to talk about some of the more interesting ones, some of the ones that have been less talked about. Frostlass and Monkey Dory, some Ogre Pond Regidrago stuff. Some really cool stuff. But I hope you enjoyed. I'm excited to see you in the next video.